Hey everyone, my name is Michael O'Reilly, and today I will be discussing domestic violence in the Quran. This was a topic that I was very unfamiliar with until this point, so I'm very excited to share what I've learned with all of you. Let's begin. I'd like to start out with a small outline that covers what this presentation will be about. I'll first start with domestic violence in the Quran and the myth that many people have about it. I'll also talk about some statistics in regards to domestic violence, scholar viewpoints, and some laws that were established recently to combat it. I'll also talk about divorce and domestic violence today. So first, I'd like to discuss what exactly the Quran says about domestic violence. Absolutely nowhere in the Quran does it support the use of domestic violence. I would like to point out a verse from the Quran that has been very controversial for centuries, which is Ayat 34 from Surah 4. It reads, "Men shall take full care of woman with the bounties which God has bestowed more abundantly on the former than on the latter, and with what they may spend out of their possessions. And the righteous women are the truly devout ones, who guard the intimacy which God has ordained to be guarded. And as for those women whose ill will you have reason to fear, admonish them first, then leave them alone in bed, then beat them." Ultimately, many have read this verse and immediately come to the conclusion that the Quran and Islam as a whole promote physical abuse towards one's wife. However, there are many excerpts from the Quran that show a disdain towards the act of domestic violence. The Quran states, "Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin, and He forbids all shameful deeds, and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that ye may receive admonition." I'd now like to talk about domestic violence and Muhammad. Muhammad was against all forms of violence, especially against women and other oppressed groups at the time. He permitted women who were mistreated by their husbands to take on an eye for an eye mentality and treat them the same way. Because of this action alone, many feel as though this kind of pure equality is what Islam truly stands for. Many men came to the Prophet to complain to him, as it was not what they were accustomed to. After this, Muhammad received a revelation from God that actually contradicted his actions. I find this very interesting, as it leaves it up to the followers for discretion as to which prophecy they view is correct. So, as a result of this colossal misinterpretation of the Quran's message, many Arab and Muslim-majority countries have shown large acceptance rates of domestic violence. Many have failed to care or read deeper into the Quran and have not been able to fully understand the symbolism that is present. As you can see from this graph, some countries are at an alarming 80 to 90% acceptance rate for physical abuse towards one's wife. In order for us to find a solution to this issue, let's take a look at others' viewpoints about this topic. Scholars have debated this topic for many years, attempting to uncover the true meaning behind the words and symbolism of the Quran. In the text, Azma Lamrabet states that the Quranic vision of the institution of marriage is a vision based on love, compassion, and mutual help. No physical violence is tolerated. Husbands must peacefully resolve their issues. Some of these peaceful methods include sleeping in different beds, verbal expression that the husband is upset, and a light touch with a small soft stem referred to as a miswak. The image above shows what a miswak looks like. Now, many interpret the last example as a violent physical act, but it's purely symbolic. Many hadiths denounce the mistreatment of women and condemn acts of violence committed by men. Muhammad stressed the importance of decency and respect towards their spouses. Part of the Quran says, "The best among you are those who are best to their wives, and I am the best among you in this regard." Now let's take a look at some of the established laws against domestic violence today. So, in Bangladesh, the Domestic Violence Protection and Prevention Act was passed back in 2010. Iran has a multitude of laws in place to condemn and prohibit gender-based harassment and physical abuse of pregnant women. And in Tunisia, one accused of domestic violence could face up to 5 years in prison. Something I found very interesting during my research is that the first successful prosecution for domestic violence in Saudi Arabia was in 2004. This really opened some eyes, as it seems hard to imagine that it would take that long to have a successful prosecution for such a terrible act. Now, a way to avoid domestic violence between a husband and his wife could be through divorce. As we have learned in previous weeks, women have just as much authority to get a divorce as a man does, so this is a viable option today, and even many centuries ago. If a marriage does not work out, the Quran states that the husband should either take them back on reasonable basis or set them free on reasonable basis, but do not take them back to hurt them, and whoever does that, then he has wronged himself. Finally, we're going to take a look at how domestic violence is viewed in society today. A large majority of Islamic scholars today do not condone domestic violence. Furthermore, these scholars encourage people to think more deeply when reading about this topic in the Quran. The misconception that the Quran supports and promotes domestic violence is one that is more widespread than you might think. Followers of Islam are encouraged to speak out when unjust acts such as these occur in society. Domestic violence is still present in Muslim society today, but as each day passes, more and more people are enlightened about the truth behind the Quran's symbolism. Hopefully, in the future, the entire stereotype and myth about the Quran in regards to domestic violence can be completely cleared. On this slide are some videos that I found related to this topic. Although one of them is from the attached video on Canvas, I found these all very interesting and really gave me some more insight as I was doing my research. If you're interested, I will link these in my discussion post for you guys to look at. Here are the sources I used during my research for this presentation. I want to thank all of you for listening. I found this topic very interesting, and I hope you guys did as well, along with learning something. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in this week's discussion posts, and I want to thank you again so much for listening. Have a great day.